Hi, everybody, and welcome to 2023. Happy New Year. And today on JRV live streaming TV, we are in the art of doing. Today, we're going to be making a planner. Some of you know it as a faux Midori planner or a traveler's journal. You can use it for so many different things. And we'll be covering this hardcover book that we're going to show you how you can use as an art journal. We've put this one on the back, and then we have her. Oh, no, she's the back. This is the front. If y'all aren't familiar with planners of the traveler's notebook type, we used a 8.5 by 11 piece of leather, and inside it are different notebooks, and we'll be making these notebooks, and we have 4 of them in here with different pages inside. So we have a lot to do. Welcome. Leave a comment. Leave any questions. Share if you'd like. I can't get to them on the live show because we've got a lot to do today. But I will get to them later. So let's talk a little bit about supplies, and I'll go over a few of them at a time. But first of all, for your Midori leather cover, I got this 8.5 by 11. They come in different colors. Piece of leather from a large hobby store, and I got it at 20% off, so you can get it for about $10. To make our notebook covers that go inside our Midori leather cover, you're going to need at least 80-pound heavy cardstock. And you can use any colors you like. It doesn't matter. You can even paint them. So, also, what's really great about doing some of these techniques is that you get to use up the scraps of the JRV decoupage papers that you've used pieces of, but you have left over. So we're going to be using a lot of these, and in the video segment you'll see some of them, and they'll give the names of the ones that we used. Also, we can't forget our stencils, because that would add to layers by layers. Some of these techniques I've known for over 20 years. I've been a mixed media artist for over 20 years. I've been to buku workshops and studios. So, some of these may not be new to you, but I've just learned them over the years. And we're going to go over some of those techniques. So we used the little church stencil on our prayer journal. And on each of our journal notebooks, we used the large blank labels from JRV to title our notebooks. And then we had an assembly pack or an accessory pack, and it had some fruit and berries and roses. Here's some more. And we also used these 2. So you'll also see those in the video segments. Let me show you what an individual notebook looks like so that you'll know what we're doing. So what we're doing is we're doing the cover on this, and here's the back. So this has been decoupaged and stenciled, and we even did some inside. And this particular one has the graph paper in it that we decided to fill it with. But there's a big surprise at the end of this show, so you have to watch the whole thing. And I did it just for y'all, and it's free. So, with that said, you need some parchment paper. You'll also, it's optional, but it's called deli paper. Some of you may be familiar with it, but I lay this down and then I brayer over the top of the decoupage paper to release the excess of the decoupage medium that I've been using, and I save these because I also paint or brayer on excess paint out of our palette. So you can use a brayer, but that's optional. You can use a scraper, or you can even use an old gift card. Just make sure you used your money on that gift card. Okay, so I'm so excited to be here. We have so much to go over. I just want to make sure that we have what our palette may be. And I put, you just gotta do it because that's our new motto, and I kept forgetting it. So we have a light tan. You use whatever you have, and we've got some pinks, and you can go orange, yellow. We have some blues. You'll need I used a brown, a black, and a white. And later on, we will be using some of the white gesso. And you'll be needing your decoupage medium. And it's best, if you can, to use a decoupage medium that's matte. You will find that you'll have less stickage, especially in your art journal, because it's matte and it's not shiny. So I think that's it. For now, let's go into our first segment on how we create our notebook covers for our faux Midori. We made 4 notebooks for our faux Midori Traveler's Journal. This is our monthly calendar notebook, and in the back there are empty pages for you to have lists and notes. The notebook cover has been decoupaged, stenciled, and added marks with pens. For our Midori cover, we are using an 8.5 by 11 piece of leather folded horizontally. We bought the leather this size and did not have to cut the leather. The notebook covers are made from 80-pound heavy cardstock, started with an 8.5 by 11, turned horizontally and cut 9 inches by 8 inches, and then folded in half to be 4.5 or 4.5 inches by 8 inches. We use scraps of JRV decoupage paper in Music Notes, We Praise You, Cottage Birds, Pavilion, and Monarch Chromatic. I use parchment paper and deli paper with the help when we decoupage. I put the parchment paper under the notebook cover, and I also keep handy the deli paper. The notebook cover we're doing is the Projects 2023 planner using the Pavilion. First we put down our decoupage medium, and then we take our scraps of the JRV decoupage paper and lay it down. You can paint your notebook cover first if you would like, and you do not have to completely cover the notebook cover in all decoupage. And when overlapping pieces on your cover, be sure to add a little bit of the medium up underneath where the pieces will overlap. With your decoupage in place, I then take a piece of the deli paper and then roll over it with a brayer, or you could use a credit card or something to make sure that the papers are down securely and all the excess glue is out. And then I pull it off of the parchment paper and set it aside to let it dry. And I will tear off those edges once everything has dried. Next, we're going to stencil over our music notes with the playful background stencil for our monthly calendar notebook. You can easily stencil over decoupage paper. You can even stencil on top of stencils. You can make it transparent, or you can make it in different layers. Here we keep it pretty simple. Next, we're going to be using a new stencil called Label Shapes. Comes in 6 different types of labels. The one we're using will be in the circular motion with the wavy lines, and notice we're putting it over our honeycomb playful backgrounds stencil we just did. And again, you can make it light so that you can still see the decoupage paper underneath. Add a second layer to be opaque. I alternate from the deli paper and pages for our art journal to use excess paint and to add stencils that I am using and have out at the time. Here I'm using the same label shape and leaving open areas to add something later in our art journal, and then doing one that I can also write on top of. We also used the honeycomb portion of the playful backgrounds. I also alternate from the deli papers and the art journal pages to use the excess paint from the stencils or from my palette so that I don't waste any paint, and these can later be used for collage papers. Okay, so we did use the honeycomb portion of the playful backgrounds. That's by Mara. And this was some of the others we used. It comes in a assembly or accessory pack. And we also, of course, I didn't mention, but you're going to be using the a paper cutter of any kind, and of course a ruler, but we'll make more use of those later. So we have our notebook covers. To see how we can create them, you can keep them simple and you can keep adding to them if you like. So now we're going to take a look at the second segment, which is more of our art journal cover and the beginning of what we do simultaneously, at least on the inside of our art journal book. Now, I have had this coffee table book for over probably a decade. And so I decided to use it for something else. So you can use one that you may have, or you can find one at a thrift store. It doesn't matter what the contents are, although I would like them because sometimes I use part of those pages to get me started. Also, the pages are thicker. You couldn't use like a novel for this. And I've got a few pages to show you. You'll also see some in the next video segment, but I don't want to infringe on any copyrights to show what this book was. So this would be where I took some white gesso and gessoed a spread, which is just 2 pages open. And I worked with it as I worked with these stencils while I was doing the notebook covers. What I like about this is it gives me a starting point, and I can go back later and journal on it or actually make art, a piece of art. So when you work with a book like this for this purpose, what you do is you can kind of see where I tore out some pages. So when I was beginning to do this, and I've worked on it for so long, I would rip out, like half an inch to the spine of 3 or 4 pages. And this allows your book to keep all the thickness that you're going to be adding to it. You can also, on one of those pages, like, for example, this particular one, you can see where I cut out some pages, but you can also see that I might have cut, like right here, only 2 inches of that page out, and actually used some matte medium and glued the cardstock on top. And you can also take your matte medium that you use for decoupage, and you can actually take some of these pages and glue them together to make them thicker. So there's all kinds of way to use it. I just wanted you to see how we use ours. And for example, this is one that these are 2 collages from the deli paper from the stencils that I was using. So that got me started. And those are just some examples. So let's finish with our notebook covers, and let's start on our cover for our art journaling.
This is our coffee table book, and here are some of the art journal spreads that I've done and practicing painting with that we've talked about. So to begin our cover, we put down white gesso and let that dry, and we use decoupage medium. We're using JRV decoupage paper scraps from the Cottage Birds. The blue paper is deli paper that I have made by just taking excess paint and rolling it on there so I don't waste it. And the whole book does not need to be completely covered with the collage pieces or the decoupage pieces. If you have areas that lap over, be sure and put down your decoupage medium. And I do not mind a few wrinkles. It adds to the beauty of your cover for your art journal. We take some of the deli paper and roll it with a brayer or some other item like an old gift card to get the excess paint. You just want to make sure that it goes into the area that bends when you open the book, and we put it over the spine of the book and smear that down and lay it down again. And now we'll start working on the back side of the book, doing the same thing. Sometimes this gets really wet, especially when you overlap and continue to add your decoupage medium. Sometimes the surface gets so wet with the decoupage medium that the deli pages or sheets wants to stick to it, and it might pull up some of the paper. That doesn't bother me. If you'd rather not this happen when you're doing this, you can also use the parchment paper, and it's less likely to do that when putting the brayer over it. I'm using this little spreader to get out some of the wrinkles, and then we use the deli paper again and brayer over it, or use an old gift card to make sure we get the excess glue out. I picked this blue paint color out to kind of match that collage paper, and I'm putting it in the areas where I do not have the decoupage or collage paper. It can be a little translucent, or you can put it opaque. And I also put a little bit of it on the paper of the cottage birds, just to have cohesion. Our book looks like this after decoupaging, collaging, and painting. We let this dry. We've taped down our La Femme stencils, and I'm going over the outline all over with a beige or light tan color on both of the stencils. Then I take a dark brown and go over the hair outline, and a light pink to go over the lips. Then we take some black and go around the eyes and remove the stencils. I then take that same paint and paint some of her neck and face. You can do it lightly to show the designs underneath, or you can do it heavier in other areas. And I do that for both of the faces. Later I came back in and did the left one a little bit darker, but here for now we now have a watered down white paint, and we are doing some highlights in the nose area up to the brow.
Wasn't that great? Now you can stop right there. That was a beautiful cover. I tend to overdo it, as people well know me. So we're going to add some other things to our art journal book in the next segment. Now with that, you will need some raised stencils. To do the raised stencils, you need to get a medium, art medium, that you would do your raised stencils in. But I just want, and what was fantastic when I was making this is this whole area was where on the spine mainly, and to this hip right here was what I rolled onto one of the deli sheets. And while I was working, like, I took out that stencil. The thing about the deli sheets is the glue will stick to it, but you can set it aside and let that dry and then paint over it. So this, in my opinion, is beautiful. Okay, that's with some of the stencils. Here is another one. And some of these you'll see in the next segment too. And here is another one. So I saved these using JRV stencils while I'm stenciling, and to put off excess paint from my palette so I don't waste it. And sometimes you already have the medium on it from the stencil, and you just lay it down and get a ghost image. So of course, the stencil we used was the La Femme by Mara, Vintage Retail Therapy by Mara, and these are the two. So that you get both of these when you get that stencil. So you can see where over the years I have made all kinds of journals and bind them in different ways. And you can even take some of your notebooks and you can put notebook paper in them, just printer paper, blank, or you can put in some watercolor paper. You can fill your booklets with whatever pages you'd like. Also, when I work with these, I don't just have the deli papers to the side. I also have some printer copy paper, especially from those that, you know, I printed it and I got it wrong or something. I'll use the reverse side, but those can also be glued down in your art journal. You just want to make sure that the paper that you're using when you start these type things are thin, such as copy paper and your and your deli sheets, as well as your decoupage paper with JRV. So let's go to the next segment, and we're going to elaborate on our faces. And then also that segment goes into, let me just make sure. Oh, okay. Yeah. It also goes into the stenciling of our leather cover. Now, you don't have to do this, but man, this turned out great. I don't think you can get that clear with leather without JRV stencils and, of course, her her stencil brushes. So I did use, just make sure the paint, whatever you're using, can be put on leather. That's basically it. We're going to clean the leather. We're going to wipe it down. We're going to put down the stencil, and then we're going to put a sealer over it. So here is us finishing those faces for our art journal cover and stenciling on our leather.
Our art journal cover using our stencil La Femme. Now I'm mixing a light yellow paint with a little bit of the light brown and diluted it with a little bit of water. I want to be able to see the background, but we're giving her kind of a dirty blonde hair, and we're doing that with both of the girls. And notice that I put the stencil back down to outline her lips in a darker pink so that they would be more prominent and fill them in with the light pink. We also did some raised stencils with the raised stencil medium, and those have dried, and now I am stenciling on a pale pink, and it does not bother me that the raised stencil is all covered. I like some of the white showing. We're putting some white highlights with some white paint, or you can use the white gesso with our fingers in areas in her face and hair and along other parts of the cover. We've also taken 2 butterflies from the same decoupage sheet and put them in her hair. And with the final look, we also did some more yellow in both of the girls' hair. And if you'll notice, we made her skin tone more opaque in the areas with dark patterns. And if you'll notice, we also darkened the lines around her neck and face by using the tan color mixed with just the tiniest bit of brown. We did this by putting on the stencil again over the face, and we did it at the same time that we made her lips more prominent. Now we're going to use the stencil Harmony and stencil that onto our leather cover for our Midori notebook. First, we clean it with a leather cleaner and wait for that to dry. It takes about 30 minutes, but you want to get all of the finishes off or any dirt. We lay our stencil down, and we have a board under the leather to make it easier to stencil. This is paint made for leather, and we are putting it on extremely light, a very dry brush. And you can see us dabbing it off onto the cardstock. You can put 1 coat or 2. If you put 2, wait a couple of hours before applying the second. We did not add a second coat of the white paint on our cover. And we wanted to leave the music notes up there with it so we could align it at the bottom, but this is what we're doing. We write in our travel notebook, and we're creative, so this stencil was great for that. And we went from end to end. We removed the stencil, and you can see how good that looks. Only at the very bottom is there a little bit that still needs to be dry. We then put on a thin coat of a leather finisher for durability.
Okay, let that dry on the leather finisher or sealer for 24 hours. It's subtle. You can bend it. This isn't going to crack. It's going to last you for years. It's a piece of leather. And when you finish with your art journal cover, let it dry completely, and then I take a thin layer of your matte decoupage medium and I lay it flat like that, and I put a thin coat over it. This will last. You can even put a little bit of wax on this, clear wax, but if you do it sparingly. And it's so soft, and it's so pretty. And now, what do we do with all this? And where do we get these pages? Well, let me show you. Like, for example, I have projects for 2023. Maybe there's some JRV video in there, but we've got project pages. We've got goal list. Of course, if you want gold list, and we've got a weekly tracker, and we have a prayer journal that we left blank with ruled paper so that we can journal or put our prayers to someone in. We have our monthly calendar where you have each day, each page is a month, and then the back pages are blank for you to continue some writing on, lists, bullets, ideas. And this is our I needed a 2023 creative content, because remember, our motto is you just got to do it. You just got to do it. And these will help you plan. Now, in the last segment, we're going to learn how to put all of this together. And I've made it real easy for you. So what are some of the other supplies that we may need? If you weren't working on a hard cover when you stenciled that leather, I just use sample boards. I have these, but you do want to work on a hard surface for that. Now, we're going to be binding our notebooks with our pages, and for that you can use a stylist or an awl to poke your holes. Floss threader also is a good idea, and also a good idea to have is your big eye needles. They're used for upholstery. So of course you'll need scissors, and we used the floss, the waxed. I can't find it. I apologize. I had it out. But anyway, you'll see it. This is hemp. It's a waxed thread used for bookbinding. It's real easy to find, and I love working with it. I think that's it on this particular one. You'll also need some, it's called elastic beading or cording for beads, or some even call it elastic thread, and it comes in a little case like this. These are all inexpensive items. Now, you're going to see me use a crocodile for when I use or punch my holes, whether it be for the notebooks assemblage or the Midori travel notebook assembly. So that works real easy, but if you don't have one, you can continue to use these two items, something like that, to get your hole started. And a lot of people that do a lot of bookbinding, and I've been doing this for years, so I have all this, but you don't need this, is where the crocodile takes care of this. But, they'll actually take the tool that punches holes, and they put it, you don't have to have this little thing, it's called an avel or something like that, and you do like that with it. But that's why you also need that hard surface. So let's take a look at how we assemble all of these things to put in our traveler's planner or journal.
Let's put our notebooks together. These are the supplies you will need in order to get this accomplished. Also, we used letter-sized paper folded horizontally, and then the papers were cut, folded to equal 4.25 inches by 7 3/4 inches. First, fold your paper and then cut it on the line of 4.25 inches folded, and then cut 3/4 of an inch off the top of the page. Now we are going to put the holes in our notebook covers. We'll be putting a hole in the very center and 1 inch from the bottom and the top. Here we are measuring that 1 inch and middle mark. We are also marking our pages. Putting the pages in book form is called signatures. You want to make sure that they are aligned and centered, and you place them on top of your book cover. Then you'll cut your holes from the notebook 1 inch from the top and bottom, and then also at your middle point. Align your pages and covers so that you can see through the holes. Cut about a 20-inch piece of the wax thread that we'll be using for the binding of the book. Going through the middle hole, we leave some excess for tying, and then we go to the top and we go back down into the middle, avoiding that tail that will tie. We go back through, and at this point we will take some of that wax thread and move it over to your left, and then go under again with the other piece and pull the threader out, and then tie it in a knot. I tie all my knots in a double knot, and then we would cut off the excess. To make the holes for our leather cover, we will use a template out of an 8.5 by 11 inch sheet of cardstock. Also, these are the things that you will need in order to do this. You'll need the other hole punching accessories should you not have a crocodile. Folding our paper in halves and then drawing a line down those to find our center, we mark a dot on the left and right lengthwise and mark 5/8 of an inch from the top and the bottom, and this is where we place our holes. Cut 19 or 20 inches of the electric cord. Go through the top hole, leaving an exit. Take it to the side hole and then go to the bottom and come back up. Then you can release your needle and adjust as necessary and tie it in a double knot. The elastic cord should actually just kind of lay there, not too taut and not too loose. For the middle cord, we will cut a piece of the elastic cord about 15 inches long. You may use dental floss threader if this is helpful. Tie a knot at the bottom. I do a double knot. Slide it through with the floss threader. Cut off the excess of your knot and turn it over and cut off the floss threader. And that's it. Next, we'll cut the elastic cord 18 inches. You'll need 2 of these. We're going to wrap them around the lengthwise of our notebook just to get the right size. This is going to be a removable cord that you use to put 2 notebooks together and then attach them to the leather cover. With the cord in the middle of one notebook, find the middle of another notebook so that the 2 look like this, and then slide these behind one of the cords on the left in your leather. We will do the same thing with these 2. We'll attach them with removable cord, both in the center, and then we'll take those and we will slide those 2 in, and there you go.
Okay, let's take a little bit of time to show you the notebook cover has 3 holes, one in the middle on the fold and one inch from the top and bottom. Our paper is a little bit shorter than the cover, and we fold that in half and we put it together as shown. I did find that here it's called waxed thread. And it lasts a long time, but that's what it looks like, and that's what I used. You'll find it by the leather where you would purchase the leather piece for the Midori or Traveler's Journal notebook. Now let's take a look at the pages. Okay. This is one already cut. I punched some holes in it, but when you put these together, and you can mix and match them. We have the calendars, we have the goals, we have the projects, and we have the weekly weekly tracker. You can track anything you want. You can track your projects, but you can track calories, exercise, whatever you want to track. You can do it. But when you do these, they are printed on one side only. So what happens is they'll look like this on the signature page, but when, like the calendar, you'll see it on the right, and then you'll have a blank page on the left, and I know I probably have this reversed, but that gives you blank pages in the back. Now, for your rules or your dotted line, here is the rule. I printed it and flipped it over and printed it again so that when you open it and you use one of your books for this, let me see if I can find one. Like here's the graph paper. Like it's a full spread. And sometimes I use the dot on one side and the graph on the other, just depending on what you put together. But if you're just using the same one, you're going to have it on both sides of the paper. So I also did a, see the gold line? That's your fold line. Now, all printers are different. Mine, it worked like this, so you can use it as a guide, but of course, you can either use a bone folder, you saw me using that, or your gift card, or even the spread, or any straight edge, so that when you crease your fold, this is just a guideline. It might not match up exactly from your printer, so I would definitely just use it as a guide. And also the black lines that are running on each side, these are where we would cut the paper for our notebook. And again, these are just guides, but that would be that 4 1/4 that we wanted. You would cut off this side, and this is your fold. And then, of course, we cut off the top 3/4 of an inch. And to give you a closer look at the leather cover, what we have is, I've used this forever. You fold it this way, crease it, fold it this way. We're working this way. I apologize. So, and then I draw the line down the center where you have here and here, and I put a hole or mark where the center is, and then from that center line, I measure out 1/4 of an inch from each side of the center line and draw a line all the way down. And then I draw a line 5/8 of an inch at the top and at the bottom. And that is where I place the holes. So when you have this, you lay it down on your leather, and you'll see where you can take a marker and mark where those holes need to go, and then you can punch them with whatever tools you may have that you use. So with that said, we're going to leave you with a great bonus. I have called it You Just Gotta Do It Planner and Journal Toolkit. Each one of these pages, the monthly calendar, the goal list, the weekly tracker, the project list, and the dotted line, the ruled line, and the graph line, are available on my website at morningdewdrops.com. It is the blog post for today, and you will find a link to of the pages that you need to print out for your notebook. It is a link, a Dropbox link. You will have to download it to print. It was the only way I could figure out how to do it in a short period of time. But when this is loaded up, I'll also be adding a video link to that blog post so that you can refer back to it as well. So I'll be back the first Tuesday in February. I hope you're able to get some use out of the things that we did today. Please let us know. And until then, remember, you just gotta do it. Bye.